You don't have like dial-up internet. That's good. Otherwise,
Oh, we
it's
don't
like,
do smoke signs here anymore. We're connected now.
dude, yes, yes.
Yeah, that's one thing also about Colombia is like my first thought of Colombia as well before I came here, like I don't know, like 8 to 10 years ago. I thought everybody was still riding donkeys, and you're straight away into the Amazon.
This episode of the Phil Experience is brought to you by Moscow Moto. Guys, I have their luggage, their backcountry expedition luggage on my GS Adventure, and it saved my motorcycle from some pretty good damage this past weekend at the Get On Adventure Fest in South Dakota. Guys, Adventure Moto is brutally hard on gear. Rocky water crossings, rutted hill climbs, gnarly descents, crashing, getting up, crashing again. If all that sounds familiar, Moscow has designed this gear for you. Check them out. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. I'm excited, super excited, because we've got Tim from Donkey Sunrise on the show. Tim, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me.
First things first, everybody, I'm going to let Tim introduce himself, talk about what he does. He's in Colombia. But, this episode is super special. Tim and I, we've been talking on the phone for a couple of weeks, probably longer, about you coming on the show and talking about what you do, motorcycles in Colombia, the whole thing. You've got a super great setup. Love your backdrop. But more than anything, beyond that, if you are somebody that's looking to start your own business, somebody that's stuck in their job, somebody who wants to get into the motor industry, somebody wants to know what that's like, I think you're going to get some great insight from this episode. Because, Tim, we've had major conversations around these topics. And also, what it's like to travel. I just got back from Africa, and you're in Colombia, and I think the perception, especially in the States, is the whole world is dangerous and we shouldn't go anywhere. But you've got some great insight on why that might not be the case or why that isn't the case. So enough of me talking. I'll let you introduce yourself, what you do, where you're at, and all those good things.
So, yeah, I'm Tim from Donkey Sunrise. I'm here in Colombia, in the south mid of Colombia on the western side. We have a guest house and a motorcycle hub here. So we host a lot of people that come through the Pan American Highway from the States down or from Ushuaia up. We do a little tours. We do trainings here. We do everything around motorcycles with just full passion. Everything about the fun factor. I didn't came to Colombia for making money, but of course we need to be a feasible business. But we just want to have a great time with like-minded people, and that's what we do here. So we host a lot of like-minded people here, and just trying to wake up every day with a smile. That's the end goal,
Yeah, dude, I already, based on your backdrop and what you're telling me, I'm like, okay, I need to get down there. And I like what you said about, I didn't start this for money. Of course, money is important. I think when you start everything, I'll say everything, but like the reason I started what I'm doing was never like, let me just see how much money I can make. It's like, what if I did something I loved? Right. And I think that's where you're at. And I read your bio. You're like, I think you were in marketing in Europe, and you're like, yeah, this is not the life I want to live. Boom. Fast forward a few years, and there you are in beautiful Colombia doing the things. I watch your Instagram. You have folks come through there all the time that are, passing through, or to your point, come for 2 days, stay for 2 months. You must have a pretty amazing and welcoming setup, right? Is that what you were going for?
Yes, that's what I'm going for. We call it Donkey Sunrise family, not for nothing, because people come in. We have it as a sign actually on the door, because what for me is important that this is a home for people from far away from home. Basically, when you travel through South Central America, especially where you don't speak Spanish or just a little bit, you want to find that place sometimes where you can be, you can speak in English or German or Dutch for me, any of these languages, and just feel home and feel safe. Of course, this is going to be a topic we're probably going to hit, safety, but where you just come inside and you just feel like home, where your bed is, and where you can have a conversation or you need information. So yeah, that's one of the core things of what we're doing, helping people out and feel home. Yeah, so family, absolutely.
How do people find out? So they're riding their motorcycle, down south. Do they just Google? How do they find you? How do they know that this is the place I want to stop? This is a place I want to ride and get, because based, like I said, on your Instagram, a ton of people coming through there to having a great time. How do they find you?
We started up with the iOverlander. There's an application where you travel around the world. You want to find camp spots or other information about the area, and it's really specific for people overlanding. If it's overlanding by big trucks or vans, or overlanding by motorcycles. That's how we kicked off. And then, talking to people like more northern Colombia, southern Colombia, and of course Instagram. But we did basically, it's been really a process, a slow process, kind of natural, because we didn't do any marketing. We didn't do besides of course from Facebook and Instagram, but still, if you don't know about us, you don't find us, right? So yeah, it's been growing really organically, and it's slow, and we have still slow seasons and up seasons like December, January, February. We're a lot of people we had over. We're still growing slowly, but steady, and we get the right people, the people that we want here, because I never aimed of being a full, really highly occupied business. We just wanted to have a great time with great people. And the word to mouth thing is the main thing. People start talking on Facebook groups, on travel groups, WhatsApp groups. And then you get medias like podcasts and stuff that are approaching you. Or I went to to the Dusty Lizard in the States, the Moscomoto event, just to talk with people, and to say what I like to tell the people about Colombia. Why should you travel? Why should you pass and say hello when you're of course passing through Colombia to Donkey Sunrise? But yeah, basically that's the way we've been going, and it's going strong.
Well,
Slowly,
you're already
steady.
setting me up, man. You already set me up. You're talking about, I'm actually wearing a Moscow t-shirt. So we're talking about Moscow, and we're talking about the Dusty Lizard, which I'm going to in August. I interviewed Pete, their CEO slash, what does he call himself? Lead crash tester, something like that. But I interviewed him, and he talked about, we went in about 20 minutes about, travel around the world and the perception that the world is dangerous and living that sort of life. So if we were to address the classic phrase is elephant in the room, but I will say donkey in the room, since we're talking to you, right? I think, we were talking before the show about how, I texted a few folks, hey, I might go to Colombia sometime. They're like, oh man, that is dangerous. And, because the shows show it down there, it's dangerous, locked up abroad, all the things. So how dangerous is Colombia when you're coming down through there on your motorcycle?
Well, I think it's as dangerous as any place you don't know. If you don't know the place and you don't inform yourself well, if it's the suburbs of the outskirts of Chicago, or it's Paris, or anywhere around the world, you need to be well informed. I don't think it's dangerous here. There are parts definitely that are dangerous, but everywhere around the world, it's certain places you should not go to. But in general, I would say all the people that come through here are so surprised about how lovely the people are, instead of how dangerous it is. If you're gonna act like a dog with his tail between his leg, you probably might get bitten, right? And if you don't inform yourself well, and you're going to the wrong neighborhoods, or you're finding yourself in the classical things, if you dive into drugs and all that stuff, and you don't know your ways, you're gonna get yourself in troubles. But it's everywhere around the world. Yeah, it's anywhere. So in that sense, I would say Colombia is safe as long as you know what you're doing. But that's everywhere. So I wouldn't say it's any different, because I traveled a lot around the world. I traveled a lot to Southeast Asia, Australia and Europe, of course, and here Central America and a little bit South America. But it's these all the same rules apply, basically. Put a big smile on your face and you get a big smile back, and inform yourself up front. Big cities are more dangerous than smaller towns in general. Dangerous. There's more stuff going on. There's less social control. Smaller towns, there's social control. Neighbors know each other better than in the big cities. But if that's in New York City, or it's in Amsterdam, or it's in Paris, it's kind of all the same. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's that dangerous. No, absolutely not.
And it's interesting because I think you did say you traveled in the U.S., and I can think of, off the top of my head, 5 major cities where if you were at a place on your motorcycle at the wrong time of night or even day, there's probably going to be some bad things that happen to you. So, it's all relative. Where'd you go in the States? You went to Dusty Lizard? Where else?
Yeah, I actually did a 3 months riding around the United States on a 1200 GS. And the second part, I bought a KLR with a friend of mine. And I did the southern part of the U.S., but Midwest, so Memphis, down to New Orleans and the Smoky Mountains, up back to Connecticut, and the other one was to Chicago, and then over Toronto, Niagara Falls, and that way back to Connecticut. But at that time, it was more for me, like, of course, the ride, but I like the music at the States, like finding the blues, finding the jazz, finding all the country music, bluegrass, and all that stuff. So I was, it was a two-story. It's like it was really riding the motorcycle and
Right.
finding the cool jams, finding the good music. And I did. It was amazing in that sense. Yeah.
So, as somebody that is not from the United States, right?
Yeah.
What did you think of this country? And
Oh,
that's a very broad, general state question, but
yeah. I want to
I'm
keep friends
curious.
with everybody in the States, but
No, no, yeah, go ahead, man.
no, it's a first world country, but it has definitely parts that I would say, like, I was really surprised about certain parts of poverty in Mississippi area. I was like, wow, I was flabbergasted.
Mm,
You had like these small towns where I just need to get gas or find like a campground or whatever. Like I travel not really. I travel prepared, but not like prepared as like, oh, I want to go this destination there. I like to take a ride just because it's like, oh, it
right.
looks beautiful. Let's take a ride here and like take a
Mm,
left. Um, well, and then you end up in the States sometimes in really places where I didn't expect, to be like towns that are, I don't know the names of the towns anymore, but there were like there was a lot of drugs going on. There was a lot of
mm,
like people wandering around at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the streets like zombies, and that to me was like, wow. I was surprised about that poverty in the Midwest. But on the other hand, what I was really surprised about, but if you came into like these little towns, like how welcoming people were, it was
mhm.
like, I don't know. Like it depends on who you talk to, right, in the States. But I think in general, all over the world, people are just great people. If you approach them with a smile, you get that smile back. If you're gonna act tough and difficult, people will act the same way, right?
And I think you might have had a perception of coming to the U.S. and U.S. is such a huge country, right? So if you're in Mississippi, it's different than Colorado. That's different than Illinois or whatever. But
Absolutely.
just did you have any major perceptions that were like, yeah, this is absolutely wrong, or I was justified in feeling this way?
Yeah. No, like absolutely. Up front, I grew up in the Netherlands, small country, and even there, east, northwest, people think we are all different because we have a different
Mm,
dialect. And if you're living half an hour out of Amsterdam or even 10 minutes, you're already a farmer. For people that are in
right.
Amsterdam, like these kind of things are going on. So in the States, and when you go, I was so surprised when I was in New York City, and you go half an hour out of the city, and you're basically already really in the countryside. People wearing, the, how do you call these pants, like
No,
the
the overalls, coveralls.
the overalls,
Yeah.
and people are like hardworking people that work outside on the land,
Hmm.
and I was so surprised that was so near to the city already. Yeah, so like being in the city, you're in bubbles, right? So if you're in Amsterdam or you're in Paris or you're in New York City, you're in a bubble, but you just go for a little bit out and you're straight away in the countryside. I was so surprised about the United States, like how quick that from city people to countryside people. And for
Hmm.
people that are busy, like in the center of the cities, if it's Chicago or any city, and you go outside and people have a talk, you just in the local tienda, local call it
Like
grocery
a
store or
market.
whatever, and you
Yeah.
have a
Store.
little chat with people. It's like, oh, I see you on the bike, where you came from, where you going to, yada yada. You have like these conversations straight away, and I was really happily surprised because when you're traveling alone, I like to have conversation with people, and it was really easy in the States.
Yeah. I think another thing that people in Europe experience is the proximity of countries, like how close they are. Where here it's, states. So you can ride for days, and you're
Yeah,
still like in two states, or three states, or you're right across Texas and Arizona. And, you're still just the wide open spaces of this country. I've ridden, I live in the West and I've ridden out here, and, you can go for 3, 4 hours at a time at, cruise control on 100 and you're still in
yeah.
Arizona. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
so
And well,
did that
I
surprise
wanted
you
to
at
add
all?
to that in the Midwest, you can put like a hockey stick in your steer and you just tape down the gas, and 3 days later you can just
Yeah.
undo everything because you can go in a straight line.
That's
Like in
Kansas. We call
Europe,
that
yeah,
Kansas. Yeah.
yeah, you call that Kansas, right?
It's horrible. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I was surprised like how big it is, how
Mhm.
massive it is. And I was in Utah a couple of months ago. I went to the Dusty Lizard event, and I met up with some friends that I met here in December at Donkey Sunrise, and And then I was just in Utah for 2 weeks riding, and just like amazed, like, in these 2 weeks I've just been riding all different dirts and off-roading, and the Moab is like on itself already like a destination where you can like go around for like a week or 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so big. It's so big. So for me, what I had like in the beginning when I was younger, you watch TV, you have movies, and you have shows like the Jerry Springer shows, as I would just mentioned before.
Classic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the classic things are Oprah
Award-winning
Winfrey, and
television.
but you get like a little bit of a closed-minded thought about like, oh, that's America, right? That these are the
Mm-hmm.
Americans. But when you travel around, it's so different. All the customers that we have, the people that come through here, from the States, they come from Boston, they come from, I don't know, Colorado, they come from Oregon, they come from LA, they come from all over the place, and they all have their different ways. So yes, they're all Americans. Yes, you all have Kentucky and McDonald's around the corner, what we always joke about in the Netherlands, but you do have a different grow up. Like you do feel different when you come from certain areas, I noticed.
Absolutely. And I hope you don't mind if I bounce around, because I'm trying to pick up on the stuff that you're laying down. And you get a lot of people that travel through. And if I were
Yes.
to call you and say, Tim, I'm coming from Colorado, I don't know how long it's going to take me to get there, but I'm going to ride obviously down through Mexico and into South America. What are some of your top tips for somebody like me that's never ridden through multiple countries, that's doing a long trip on a bike to get to you? What advice would you offer me?
Don't spend too much money on all kinds of stuff.
Mm,
Don't get too much stuff on your bike. This is like a bike you feel comfortable with. So if you're a 1200, but you're not a really good rider on that bike, but you do like to ride dirt, don't ride a 1200 down. Get a smaller bike that is easier for you to pick up if you like to ride dirt, for example. Um, so you really need to know what kind of riding you want to do south, right? If it's like the Pan American Highway and stay on the asphalt, you can take any bike. We had guys like a guy on a Sportster 89 he came from um, well, I came from the States. He was like on a 32 or something, and he came on a Sportster all rusty out of 89. He did even off-roading with it. So
oh
yes,
wow.
it's possible on any bike, but it depends on your mindset. If you're quickly afraid, you're tension up on a bike, just get something you feel comfortable on. Like you don't need a big engine to get down here. So that is one thing. What you pack is important. Don't pack too much stuff. You can always buy stuff on the road. It's not like in the States, you can only buy it in the States. Yeah, the other thing is like if you're going to go for long travel, like I would suggest buy good quality stuff. And I can throw brands around, but everybody knows where the good brands are. Like, and I don't want to say to everybody, you need to buy the big brands, because if you're 3 months going to travel down to here and that's your 3 months, spend it on your experiences mostly.
Yeah.
Uh, but okay, it's also for everybody is different, right? So okay, this is how I see what I see with a lot of people that come in. Mid-weight bikes are really popular, like T7s and stuff, and panniers that are kind of tight to your bike, because like here the traffic you can go lane splitting as you call it, right?
Yep.
So here you can go through the traffic, but not if you have a really big side panels. You cannot do these kind of things, so you're in traffic stuck. Mindset is the most important. Just like get going. Don't spend all your money already in the States. Just get on the bike and ride. And while traveling, you'll figure out what is really important to you.
I think that's so true, man. You got to vet out your packing system, because you're going to want to pack everything. The more space you have, you're going to want to fill up every cubic centimeter with something, right? And then you're taking off on this trip, and you're going to feel like, I need that. I really didn't need that. It's interesting. My first long trip I did with my girlfriend, dude, I think I had the tank bag. She had everything else, right? It's like
Uh-huh.
clothes and shoes and all this stuff. And then when we got back, she was like, yeah, I didn't need three-quarters of that stuff. So you
Yeah.
mentioned bikes and bike size, and we were going to get to this later, but I want to get to it sooner. And I actually just shot a video about this, about the tendency to go out. I need the biggest bike, 1250, 8-gallon tank, all the things. It's a very American thing, I think, to do. And yet, you get down there and you're like, I really didn't need 1250 cc's of 600-pound adventure motorcycle. And you do see it more often than not with everybody that travels through. What are your thoughts on big bikes versus, say, something you got behind you there?
Big bikes are amazing. I love it. I did 1200 through the United States, like for like a
Mm-hmm.
month and a half. and it's a great bike. But is it needed to go south to Ushuaia? Absolutely not. You can go on a 50cc if you want to. It just depends on how quick you want to get somewhere and how good of a rider you are. The thing about this range anxiety, like everybody's like, oh, like I need a bigger tank, and like, well, you need, of course, like a tank that goes more than 200 kilometers, or what is that, like 150 miles or whatever. It's better to have like a little bit bigger tank because else you're stopping the whole time. But if you have long stretches of like 800 Ks, was that like 500-600 miles,
Mm-hmm.
you can always like fill up 2 bottles of Coca-Cola. You throw the Coca-Cola out, fill it up, so you have for that stretch enough. You don't need to spend on big extra tanks. You don't, but you can, but you don't. You don't have to. So it all depends on your riding style. But like I noticed a lot of people, I have here storage for people that they go back to the States, they go to EPRs and leave stuff behind, for example. But I have a lot of stuff from people that they leave behind here because they wanted to lose weight, because they
Mm.
had so many things on there, everything they thought they needed for every situation.
What are
Well,
some of
like,
those things? Like what were people leaving behind? I'm curious.
for
Like
example,
guitars and like just
like even that meaty, this guy that just left back to Canada, he had like a metal side panniers, and on the bottom an extra part welded. So he had, for example, he made music while he was traveling. So he goes all over the world, and he was making albums. He had a
mm,
guitar, but he could fold that one up. But he had like all MIDI system, like everything. So he left here also like, what is it, like the GoPros. He had like 3-4 GoPros. He had like a
mm,
drone and another drone and I don't know, everything double, 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 every
yeah.
cable double, all the tools to be like a full mechanic on the road. Well, like I'm gonna say, like people here like to fix stuff. You can, if you have a problem, 99% of the time you'll find someone that can help you out and has some tools. So you don't need to bring all your tools from the state. You need to, to change a tire or maybe the carburetor or some small things that you can do on the road. But you don't need to bring all these things. So a lot of tools I have here because they weigh a lot. Because everybody's like, oh, I didn't need like I'm not sure how these big things called where you crank up.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like a torque wrench, breaker bar,
yeah,
all
these
those things.
things,
Yeah,
because like that's a lot of weight, and especially on a smaller bike. It's like I don't know. You want to enjoy your ride. You're not going from A to B. You also want to enjoy the ride. Yeah, you're cornering. It influences a lot if you have a lot of weight on your bike.
yeah. That's
So
so
then
true.
people start spending on their suspension a couple of $1,000s because it's too heavy. So they need stiffer suspension, and then the costs keep going, right?
Yep. You end up amplifying everything by, I had a friend a long time ago tell me it was about hiking. He was like, the bigger pack you get, in other words, whatever you have, you're going to fill it up. So if you get a gigantic
Yeah.
backpack, you're going to fill it up and it's going to be super heavy. So if you have all this kit, you're going to want to put things inside that kit because you got space. And the next thing you know, you're leaving it at Tim's place at Donkey Sunrise because you don't want it. You don't want it anymore, right?
I had the same first time traveling, backpacking Southeast Asia, and I had a backpack. What is it, like 80 liters or 70 liters or something? And I was prepared to climb the Mount Everest, to go over glaciers, for example. But in reality, I really went from the big cities and I did hikes on my flip flops. I even climbed
Right.
mountains on flip flops because, my brother came over after 2 months. I gave him half of my backpack because I was prepared for everything. But you need to be true to yourself. Like, are you going to do really everything? Maybe not. You don't want to carry all that load around, because I was renting little bikes and just tie the big backpack on the back of your little moped or whatever you rented, and you go off. But yeah, you need to be true. Like, what are you really going to do? You don't need always like these, the most expensive, difficult shoes, that people use that
Mm-hmm.
hike like 3 times a week.
It's absolutely true. When I moved out to Colorado, I was going to go hike one of the bigger, one of the 14, or they call them 14ers, over 14,000 feet. Anyways, where I'm going with this is I had this gigantic, I think it was a 69-liter pack on, and I had everything. Like the apocalypse could have happened while I was hiking this mountain. I would have been fine for like 2 weeks. And like, there's like teenage girls passing me in like Nikes going up this mountain, and I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, I've got everything I could possibly have in this backpack, and like she's carrying like a water bottle. And I'm like, man, that's not a good look, right? 'Cause I think you get into this zone of like, I got it just in case. And if I have this thing, then I better have a backup to that thing. And then you go down this path of just having way too much stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So be true, be real, be realistic when you start traveling. So it's coming back to your question, really, is like, what are you really going to do? If you're going to ride the Pan American Highway, the highway itself, you go through towns like most of the time, you're going to find towns as like little stretches of, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 kilometers. Yes, there are parts that are way longer, but you need all these things for just these couple of stretches. You need to be prepared. If you're going to ride deserts all day, like every day, yeah, be prepared for that stuff, then you definitely want to have enough water with you, enough gas with you, and there's nothing in. But most of the people that go south, they avoid real danger, right? Like I would say real danger in the sense of like you're getting into no man's land. If something happens, you're on your own, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you stay, on the more main Pan American Highway, for example, then there are parts that are more remote, but you don't need to spend like a lot of money. And it's a big industry, and I get it. And I really like all these brands. What they make is amazing. They make you prepare for the apocalypse, basically, and it looks cool and good. But if you need it, that's really the question. Because I've never bought most of these things. I buy good quality stuff now because it lasts. And even that breaks, but you can fix it. And aftermarket service with these bigger brands are really good nowadays. So even in Colombia. Yeah. So yeah, be true. Like, be real. What are you really gonna do? Like,
I love how you say be true. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to keep that. Before we get into the next thing, and I should have started this from the beginning, but Donkey Sunrise, what was the inspiration? And people are like, Phil, you should have asked them that a long time ago. What was the inspiration? Was it just I'm just like, there's a sunrise and there's just a big donkey, and you're like, dude, that's the name.
You mean the name, or like starting this business?
The name. The
The
name.
name. Well, like, I'm gonna be real to you. It was in the end like 3 bottles of red wine.
That's how all good things happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I started with another guy, a Colombian American, and I wanted something with sunrise because it's the most beautiful time of the day here. The clouds go through the mountains up, you hear the animals, the birds and the monkeys and whatever. Like that for me is like still mesmerizing. Every day I wake up, that's like I'm smiling because of that.
Mm.
My friend, he was more the funny guy in that sense, and he's like, yeah, I want something funny, like with donkeys or monkeys or whatever. So 2 weeks into the yes, no, yes, no, and one night we started like having a couple of wine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was so done with it. It's like, okay, you take one word, I take one word, and we put them together. And in the end, it sounded kind of, catchy. So it was good. Plus,
I
everybody
love
has
it.
the question, so people remember the name. And, that's why a lot of brands have like 2 names, because it sticks better.
Yeah, it absolutely sticks. It's better than like Colombian motorcycle tours. I'm sure there's a company
Well,
out there.
yeah, and plus, like, a lot of people have already these kind of names, and they're great. Like here in Colombia too, there's a lot of like good motorcycle rental places and tour places. Yeah, but they have these kind of names, a couple of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that's for me, it was important. Like, like something sticks and something is a little bit fun and good. That's what we do. We're not chest pumping kind of people here. We're really down to earth, and but I like to have a lot of fun though. It's like every day needs to be a lot of smiles and laughs. So you
Absolutely.
can.
And you said something and you were like, and this is perfect going into the business aspect of it, because you're like, every day I wake up with a smile on my face. And same here, and you try to have positivity in every day. And you're like, man, I'm super thankful for where I'm at, what I'm doing, where I live. And that's super important in your life. And I think I know there's a point
Absolutely.
in my life, and I know that there was a point in your life when that wasn't always the case. And I want to go back a little bit to the inception of this, right? To, corporate Tim with, fancy suit and doing marketing and, whatever it is. And you're like, man, that's just not where I want to be in life. This is not where I want to be, what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
And so, I sent this to you over email, and I'm not going to recite it, totally. I'm just going to use generics, but, there are so many people that are like, yes, I would love to go pursue something, my passion, start a business. And of that, the very, very small percentage actually do that. I think something like 95% of people never do it. And of those that try, the majority fail for whatever reason. So to do what you've done, to come out and say, I'm going to leave this life behind, start this life, and then to be successful at it is an incredible story. So I'd love to hear kind of where you were, what was like, I just don't want to be here, and then how it started?
Well, the thing is, like, I think, like most people say, like when you're on vacation or on holidays, you feel really happy, right? And then you come
Hmm.
back, and basically after 1 week, you're coming back to your whatever job you have. You're thinking about your next holiday already, or vacation, depends on how you call it. But that was one thing for me. Like I traveled quite a lot, and every time I came back, I was just like, I thought, oh, I need to fit in again into this, get a job and house and the car and the toys and whatnot. But when you have it again, it's just that was not fulfilling for me. And a couple of
Hmm.
failed relationships, and I was just like, I don't know. It didn't give that fulfillment, like in that kind of lifestyle that I was living in the Netherlands. And even though now it's a great country, right? You have everything. It's safe. It's really well organized. I don't know. People are kind of nice, direct. So like, it is my background, right? It's my culture. So, but every time I came to countries like this, I felt more relaxed. And I don't get the wrong perception, because of course when you come into a country, you're going to have a lot of things to go through. You don't speak the language and all these things. There's a lot of cultural differences that are quite tough sometimes to go through. But everybody is in the beginning scared, and I was too, though I have to say, because like really giving up the life, and you're building up to a certain how to call it, a certain level in your work and whatnot. If I open like LinkedIn, for example, and I see all the names of all my friends, what they have, these nice corporate names and stuff, it doesn't say that much to me. But like
Right.
manager, director, this, that, I don't know.
Hmm.
And to me, it sounds now kind of empty, because when I talk with that person, it's still the same guy to me. But it's that I don't know. It didn't do anything for me anymore.
I would say I
I
think
just
empty is a fantastic word. I actually wrote it down and underlined it because I have felt that way too. And I think a lot of people, and they're like, okay, great, Tim, great, Phil. That's cool, man. But what am I supposed to do about it? Like, I've got this thing, I've got that thing, I've got all the things that I have to do, responsibilities. I got to be an adult, whatever.
I really, really hated that thing. It's like and still when I go back, it's like people, like I go to birthday parties and I still feel like, okay, I'm the guy that didn't want to grow up, right? And I
Hmm.
still don't want to. Why would I? Because that grown up stuff looks really sad, sad and boring to me.
Sad, right?
And that, not to say anything bad, because like great, everybody needs to do their own thing, but I just like to have adventures. I don't want to wake up every day and be like, oh, okay, this is going to be my routine, and like, I need to act normal, and I cannot. Like, it's like with these like other guys that most people that come through here that already been traveling for years. That's like they're all not grown ups in the grown ups way of how it's been told to us. What is a grown up? Have these responsibilities like having your own house, having a good job, work on your pension, like all these standard things. I don't believe only in that system. Of course, we have an economy that needs to keep going, and that's why most people are like hooked into that stuff,
Hmm.
because we need to buy stuff and fit in. That's the most scary thing to let go of, because I was always a little bit of a more extroverted guy, I would say. I have no brakes. I like to go left, jump right, even though people say you shouldn't.
Did you have a plan B? Like, I want to do this thing, but in case this doesn't work out, then I'll go back and get my job. Or what did that look like for you?
No, that was the thing, because like in the back of your head, you can always back to the States or to the Netherlands, and if you're a goer, you do something, you will find work. You can get back in that system. I don't think if you have the right mind, the right attitude, you'll get back in the system, and maybe not on the level, but maybe you can work towards it. So no, I really didn't want to go back. Like that was
Mm.
my main thought. In the pandemic, I had a little while because my wife is from Venezuela, and it's difficult for her to get like work here, for example. So I thought like if we go to the Netherlands, she can actually, because she's well educated, and maybe she could do something with that, because she never had the opportunity, for example. So I was like, that could be a really nice gift to give to her. But we figured out when we were in the Netherlands, like that's not where we want to be. It's a great country
Mm.
again, but it's like we like the adventure, waking up with the sun every day, like being outdoorsy, like if we want to hike tomorrow, we go hiking. If we want to ride motorcycles every day, we can.
I think it's important to do what you find fulfilling. And I have a good friend. His name's Alan. He's about as deep into corporate America as you can get, and he loves it. He loves it,
Yeah.
man. And he tells me, like, I love this, dude. I love the whole, like, going out to dinner and, like, you know, wearing the suit and all the things. And hey, man, if that's what you want to do, absolutely. But I also know that there are people that don't want to do that. And the reason I asked you about the plan B, I truly think that yes, you can make it happen, but your sense of urgency and your sense of, like, I need to do this is, like, you know, tenfold when you're like, this is it, man. You wake up
Yeah.
every morning like, this is it, you know?
Well, and if you can start, like, if you can get yourself to do things like what I'm doing now, like, or like going on a long trip and figuring stuff out, you'll notice that you're capable of way more things, you know, in your life. You're not thinking like,
Mhm.
oh, I can only fit into this box, right? You're thinking like, man, my vision is like that. Like, I don't see myself,
Mhm.
I'm not only a motorcycle guy. Yes, I love it, but like, I have 10 other hobbies and 10 other things that I love to do. I can jump into with a lot of passion. And I think if that's your drive here, the passion, like, I never stop working. It's not working for me. As I'm just thinking creatively about things, or I don't know, like how connect things with each other or get people together. I don't know. All these things are basically work, but for me, it's not work because it's just something I really love to do, you know?
That is so special, man. That is, uh, you know, I was up probably to about midnight last night wrapping up a video. And then before that, I actually rode on Monday and shot the whole sequence, which I edited yesterday. And a lot of hours, a ton of hours, right? Creating, and then you're editing and doing all the things, kind of like to your point. But it is work. It's stuff that I have to do, but you don't feel like that. And I think that it's super special to experience that, to know that you've worked, you know, in quotations, more hours than you ever have, but you absolutely love it. And you don't look at it like,
Yeah.
I got to do this report for my boss otherwise, right?
Yeah, no, but that's the main thing. And like, I would say, like, also, like, I'm waking up here at where I'm working as well, right? But I wake up and, like, I have to say, I also have nights that I don't sleep that well, right? If things are
Hmm.
difficult or things that are culturally difficult here, you know, like staff or these kind of things, that is more complicated here. That's why we work with a lot of volunteers. Yeah, so like, I do have sleepless nights here as well, like in the pandemic and all these times that were like difficult, especially when you're far away from friends, family, and whatnot. But every day, like after even I have a short sleep, you know, I walk out of into this garden that we created as well, like with 65 different fruit trees and like
Mm.
all the beauty. It was almost a desert when we bought it, and just you straight away you see the first person come towards you. Hey Tim, good morning. How are you doing? Yada yada yada. Oh no, man, I'm happy. I'm on.
That's a beautiful feeling, man. And
Yeah, yeah,
65
yeah.
fruit trees, I gotta, yeah, that's amazing. You just pick them off, eat them. There you go. Right.
Yeah, well, that was my whole idea, you know, like the whole thing's like you're getting self-sufficient, you know, you're walking through the garden, like basically the breakfast is the fruits are all from the property, you know, and the juice is in the afternoon, and in the future we want to make our own ice cream here as well, you know, like all these kind of things, everything out of our own garden. And I would say like 80% like of the fruits like nobody even knows of because they're from the jungle, the deep jungle, because that's another little hobby of mine, you know, like finding these things. So
So two things I want to go over because I think this is going to be super popular. Number one is what it's like to come spend a week or two, whatever, or a month with you guys. And then number two, which I actually, you know, I did some Googling as well on this. I'm like, well, what would it look like if I, as an American, wanted to come, or from anywhere else in the world? So I'm just using American because I live in America, wanted to come, say, live there for 6 months out of the year. You know, I know people that, you know, they live in other countries and they come back. So I guess the easy one first, I'm coming down for a week or two to hang out with you guys. What can I expect at the Donkey Sunrise Estate? I don't know if you call it an estate, but I just did. So there you go.
yeah, we call it finca. A finca is actually like a farm in Colombia. So it's
Hmm.
a 5,000 square meters. Like, I'm not so sure what that is. Get your calculator out. What that is in in the
3 feet
states.
to a meter. Yeah. Okay. Uh huh.
Well, it's not that big, but it's big enough to wander around a little bit. Um, so what we have with people that come in with a bike, because there's different kind of people that arrive, but I would say the biggest audience that we have is still people that ride on their own motorcycle, right? So they come
Okay.
from the north or from the south. So or they come, they went all the way to the northern part of North America, and go south, and they cross the Pan American, the Darien Gap. They
Yeah.
go over the Darien Gap and come into Colombia. We have other ones, they fly in most of the time from Bogota, and they come here. We have the other ones that come from Ushuaia up, they come here, and these people stay here. And what we do mostly is because a lot of these travelers are traveling on their own or as a couple or dad and father situations, or there's all kinds of people that are pensioned, youngsters that sold their first house and have a little savings and just wanted to see the world. So there's all types of. But what we do is trying to make this home base for them where they don't have to speak Spanish, so they can relax and just feel like, oh, because everybody says like, oh, traveling, you have the easy lifestyle, but traveling is way more, how to call it, tiring than people think. Because if you don't speak a language, you don't know where you sleep tonight, you don't know what you eat today. When you're having your routines at home, you know what's going to happen today, basically, right? You know where your bed is. That's the first thing
Right.
already. So what we facilitate is for these people like having their bed here. We do in the morning breakfast all together, lunch all together in the evening, depends on the group and the dynamics. We go out for food or we make food here ourselves, pizzas or barbecue of these kind of things. And most of the time it's people connecting with each other because they have been on the road on their own or with the two of them. And here they find fellow travelers, motorcycle travelers, right? So, and then what we do for them is, or we organize, we have, for example, a map with a QR code, so you can check QR code and you can do like day trips from here. So people take all their heavy luggage off and put them here in the storage, and they go for 1, 2, 3 days, sometimes 2 weeks, ride through Colombia and come back here and connect again with people that they met here or, on their own, because I don't know, there were the two of them and one really likes to do more off-roading and the other one doesn't. So in that sense, we're always trying to help like get more depth of their travels. Because you don't speak the language and sometimes you're heavily packed, we're trying to get people deeper into Colombia, more deeper into this culture, what we have here. And Colombia is an amazing country. We have people come through and they say, yeah, I didn't like Colombia so far. It's like, what did you do? Well, I drove for the Pan American Highway down. It's like, yeah, you did the highway, and it's a little rainy season, but stay here and I will give you a couple of rides that you should do. And then people are blow off their socks because it's so amazing here. You have 3 mountain ranges that all come into valleys and up again. So all different climates in between. And I'm not sure what's that in feet, but it's 5,300 meters. So there are snow peaks. We are here in 32 degrees. So it's like 95, 100 Fahrenheit, something like that, maybe a little bit more. And in 3 hours you can be in a snowstorm.
Oh wow.
So and everything in between is so green, so lush, like jungles, a coffee region with like beautiful green mountains. And so we're trying to get these people like more deeper into, plus they come home here, like a house where they have, where they know me, because like I'm one of the hosts and the volunteers, because as I said, we work with mostly volunteers. So that's a part of a volunteer's job. But a volunteer's job can also be that someone is like 9 months on the road and says, oh, I can stay here for a while, and just welcoming people, help them on their travels. So then they stay here for like, most of the volunteers say, 2-3 weeks, and then they stay here for 4, 5, 6 months. And they love to help out people being useful here and actually start to know Colombia, learning Spanish, or I don't know, working on their bikes or improving their bikes or improving off-road skills, or because that's another thing that we do, like off-road courses. Like I'm gonna do Spanish classes now too, like focusing on that with my wife because she's been working in that branch before. Just to add on to the experience of like your South America.
Sounds like you're almost like building a hub where, obviously people can come stay, or they use you they can go out and come back, or, you know what I mean? Like, or they can come down and learn a language and stay there for 5 or 6 months, or, basically whatever you want to do is available there.
As long as like the glue is the motorcycle, and for some
Yep.
people the motorcycle is just a tool, and for some people motorcycle is their heaven, right? It's the thing that they cannot stop talking about, and both are great, But the cool thing is like they have something in common with any of them, because some people using these bikes are just to get to other places, and some people want to have the best bike to get to that place, right? To tune their bikes or these kind of things. So that's your second question. So we have people now here. We're making some more apartments for long stayers. We have now Andrew here from the States, 33 years old, and he's renting now a room. He was volunteering here, still helping out a little bit, but he's renting now a room, and found a job online and is making money here to extend his stay because he doesn't want to go back to the States. He wants to experience more of South America, learn Spanish and riding more difficult trails and get better in on his T7. We have another guy, Ron, really good guy I met in the States as well. He's going to come back here in September. He rents a room also for long term. He buys a bike here in Colombia because his bike broke in Peru. So he's going to ride bike here and stay for 9 months a year around Colombia and use this as his home base. He's a pensioned. So, he has the freedom and his money goes a long way in Colombia, right? And there's the seasons here are not changing that much. So rainy season, you can still ride amazing. So you can 9 months of the year, he can ride amazing here. And the other 3 months he's in Oregon area over there and have beautiful BDR rides with his friends in the summer. They come from all kinds of life, and we're trying to supply to all these kind of people, and they'll all add on to our hub or to our community, whatever you want to call it.
I think just for a frame of reference, it's good to note what is like, an average cost of rent down there, whether at your place or out in the city or whatnot, in U.S. dollars.
The rent of a motorcycle, you mean?
No. Rental like an apartment, small apartment. If I wanted to come stay for 6 months.
At our place, like the simplest will be like, say, $500. But like the thing is, like, you're not only having a place that you sleep in, right? It's more like here you have a whole social, you have people around you, things that are organized around you. But this is like the lowest end, right? So then you fit price, but you're in this community here. Of course, you can go in the city, not the city, but the towns you can find like cheaper, but you need to buy, your bed. You need to buy of course, on Airbnb, there's like for $1,000 and more, and you find like furnished and everything.
Right.
But in general, it's way cheaper than the United States. But your cost of living here is so cheap compared to the States or to Europe, right?
I think that's the bonus too, right? I mean,
yeah, like if you go to a mechanic here, like for example, like these guys, they make I don't know, an average, like a minimum wage here is about $220 a month. So I would say like most people have that or less. So that would, and you go for a food outside for like $3, you have a full meal with a soup and a little piece of meat and some veggies and some beans and rice and whatever. So it's healthy because it's not like, how do you call it, like that modified stuff that we eat in Europe and the States.
We can get on that.
Makes your belly go crazy. Here you need to get your belly goes crazy of getting used to eating like beans and these kind of things in the beginning. But when you start to get used to it, like I go to the Netherlands back, my belly goes bananas always. Like it's like I don't know, like I feel like a stone in my stomach the whole time.
Man, we could talk. Yes, I know we discussed that, and we can get there. And I think this all encapsulates like there's stuff out there, man. Beyond, and I'll use the States. Beyond the States, there's stuff out there, like Africa, like Colombia, like even Europe for folks that live here, and the cost of living is significantly less. And it doesn't mean that the way that you live is bad. It's just the price of things. When I was in Africa, they're like, why is it when you go in the States and you go out to lunch, it's like $75? I'm like, man, I don't know.
In a crappy motel, like it's still like right. $80-$90 in the middle of nowhere. It's like I thought it's like, is it Disney or why did you pay this price for this?
No. Are you're familiar with Costco, right? Maybe the big bulk store, like you buy a jar of mayonnaise, this big, very American thing to do. Yeah. So I was in there and I picked up some pork belly, and the guy back in Namibia loves to cook meat, and so very meat based diet. So it was like $26 for this big package of pork belly. All I wanted to do was send him the picture. He was like, in Namibia that's like $4, right? And I was like, $4? Like that's you know what I mean? So I just think
it's like it's made like in a farm, like I don't know, like grass fed as you call it in the States, or like I don't know, it just eats stuff that's out there. It's not being fed with anything really. It's just...
Yes, and that you touched on it, but the food, the level of quality of food. And I have not been to Colombia, but I would suspect, right? Same like in Africa, like, oh, we got it, right over there, killed it, or you know what I mean, like versus the very processed, sugar-driven, high fructose corn syrup infused everything. That, like to your point, it's not good.
No, and you can find it here too. In the big cities, people want to have hamburgers nowadays and hot dogs. They call it perro calientes, like a hot dog, but a dog hot. But Yeah, but I would say generally, like what we also use here for cooking is from our own farm or like it's locally grown here.
Mm,
And the meat is normally most of it is also from this area. It's like the eggs are from neighbors here, for example. Like these kind of things. We have, and that's also what I really love. You get more in touch with these things again. I know now where things are coming from. Of course, and then unless you learn all these things, but you go only to a supermarket to buy things. I now still go to a guy that works with wood to get, I don't know, a table made, or I don't know, a welder to get something fixed out of metal. In the beginning, I had to make the hinges here. We had to go to how to call it, like a blacksmith to get
mm,
like hinges made because we didn't have the Chinese stuff. Now it starts to roll into Colombia too, all these things, but it wasn't a couple of years ago. We had to find all these things. So you get more in touch. And it's the same with the food. It's like I go with the tours here, like in the mountains, and you come to farms where they grow the avocados, and the avocados here are like watered a little bit because it's in an area planted where it actually rains a lot, where the
mm.
avocados like to grow, like in the States or in Spain. It's like a dry area, but you can grow them, but they need to put a lot of water into it. So
Right.
it's way more, how to call it, like, it just makes more sense in
It's more
general.
natural. It makes sense.
It's
It's
more
it's
natural, yeah.
they're there because they actually grow there, right? And so what I'm
Yeah.
hearing you say is like if I come down to Donkey Sunrise and I want to stay for a week, 3 weeks, a month, whatever. It's not just that I'm going down there to ride motorcycles. I'm going down there to experience just a different way to live life, right? Whether it's through the
Yes.
community, through the
Yes.
exploration, through the food,
And
all the
that's the
things.
thing. I think that's the thing, and you say it right because it's not me and like the people that work here, but it's like the other people that you meet. That's why we're a community. It's like they add, they all have their different stories and all wanna, everybody's infecting everybody. You learn from each other, because they're already a little bit more extrovert because they're already on the other side of the planet, huh?
Hmm.
So in not in their own safe house. So you learn a lot through the community and you meet a lot of people. You get great ideas through them.
What is some of the feedback that you've gotten? People can write a review on your website or whatever, but I know, they'll text you or email you or whatever. What sort of, I use life changing very sort of loosely, but what sort of experiences have people had coming down there and
I have
staying
so
with you?
many, and I say sometimes like, oh, I can write a book already, and we just like opened again for like a year now. And before the pandemic, because we had a long stretch, the pandemic was no tourist at that time, of course.
Mm,
But like the amount of people with stories that I get from people, and like I would say, like a lot of them, I'm still in contact with. Like a lot of people, sometimes you have even more of spark. I don't know, like you make the best friends out of this. The coolest thing, if I go to States, like these guys that hook me up with a motorcycle and they help me out, like showing me Utah, for example. I have it in Europe. If I go to Spain, if I go to Italy, I don't know, all these great people. So you meet people from all parts of the world that see different, everything a little bit different. But the thing is, like we all like to share. And that makes like maybe for a planted mind that we are had, that's why we're trying to get like a certain, we call it kaders in Dutch, like like how do you call these things that a horse has on his head, that you look in a
blinders.
certain
Yeah.
direction,
Yeah.
blinders, and you go that way, and that's the way you go. But when you meet all these people from various places that have different perception of how you should live, or well, not like advocating it, but like you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then and you're just like your life just becomes more and more interesting, man.
Dude, I could not agree 100% more with that. When you get so if you are totally surrounded by everybody that's doing the same thing that you're doing, whatever, right? You're is echo chamber the right, but everything you get is sort of known, and you start to surround
Right.
yourself with people that are from different countries, different perspectives, that have lived different lives, and you have to be open to say, maybe I looked at that wrong, or maybe not wrong, but like, wow, that's a great perspective. Maybe I should try that instead. And it really opens you up to living, what some have called an inspired life. Like, man,
Yeah, and the cool thing is like not everybody gets into groups of people that if they maybe your friends will always agree with you, kind of, right? They'll
hmm,
be, oh yeah, yeah. And people here, like a lot of them also don't give a shit, right? They don't care. It's like if
right, yeah,
you don't like this, and it's like, well, good on you, or like too bad, man. Like people will, like, that's the cool thing about like living in a community. You can be honest, right? You can be honest about things. Like we all, it's like, of course, you don't need to like push a finger where it hurts the whole time with people, but I'm one of them. I'm super direct. I'm Dutch. Like if you ask me for like about like I don't know, I always said to my wife is if you don't want to hear, no, I phrase it different. It's like if she asks me a question, for example, so you want to hear the nice answer or you want to hear my honest answer, right?
Mm,
It's like, oh,
yep.
what do you think about my hair? It's like you want to hear the nice thing. I was like, well, I really don't like it. It's shit.
Mm,
It's like
yeah. Ooh.
that's the thing here. I think you can be honest. If you're in this, people already, you lost, you're not at home, you're in an environment that's safe. You can like debate everything, right? And you can talk about things. And that's a cool thing. People open up about things a lot, about their history, about their previous relationships that are still. We had last week someone's dad died and he stayed for like 2 weeks here with his new wife. And, he had to like relax, but we had awesome conversations just to get through that bad time of his life. So I don't know, like everything you learn from all these situations, right?
And all of that is available to those who would be willing to set their foot out there and experience it. Whether, and I say this, whether it's with you or anybody else that wants to travel. And I think I even told you this on the phone. I heard somebody say, the heaviest thing in the gym is the front door, right? You got to get there
Right.
and you got to be willing to open that door and go. And I think the hardest part about doing and experiencing what we're talking about is just buying the ticket or whatever it is. Like get down there and live
It
it.
was one of your first questions, right? It's just like if you have a motorcycle, it can always be a better, and it can always be a better bag, and always be a better navigation system, or I don't know, an oil dripping system, or whatever like you think you need. But the thing is, just basically, you have to get a passport in your pocket and you put money there and go. Put a smile on your face and go. And while you're traveling, you got to figure shit out because you don't know upfront. If you've never done anything, how would you know? You saw a couple of YouTube movies. Is that how you think you know stuff? No, of course not. You need to
Right.
experience it. Like
Yeah.
everybody experiences things in a different way. Like for me, for example, like smell is an important thing. If it smells somewhere, I don't like it. Like
Hmm.
maybe for you, it's like something you don't care about. It's the hearing thing, or
Yeah.
so everybody has like their own way. So just get out, just go, 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 and maybe in 3 weeks you say it sucks, or you need to come into a place like this, and there's many other places that you make you feel home, and you're like, oh, I needed just this little bit more of information, and now I feel safe to keep going again, right?
Yeah. I think that resonates completely. I think the question I was going to ask is you're like, get out, travel, especially, motorcycles. What are your things? It sounds like you do a lot of solo traveling on a bike, and I've done
Me,
that, and I've also done it with you, and I've also done it with a friend or two, and or a larger group when we were in Africa. But why is it, or do you specifically like to stay solo on a motorcycle? Like when you're in the States, is there something about that you just enjoy so much that you just don't want to do it with other people, or what is that?
Well, there's two things. Like, because I love like sharing motorcycle travels, and especially when I do more extreme stuff. Like nowadays, I do like to, if I can find a single track or something with like a bunch of guys, I love it. I will not do that on my own in the middle of nowhere because if you get stuck, it's just
Right.
not as smart. Um, but traveling on my own, what I love about it, and I said sometimes to my wife, if I go to a place like the States, like last time as well, like when I'm on my own. I have no boundaries. I can go left today. If I want to go left, I can go right. If I want to go right, I'm um, I'm an easy communicator, so like I easily meet people. And when you're with like two persons, you don't need to socialize, right? So you have already someone you can talk about the day, or if there's something difficult. The thing is, for me, like I'm emerge better into a country if I'm alone or meet local people and go with these local people or people that know the area than when I'm traveling with someone from my own background. I still love to travel a lot on a motorcycle with other people, but it's normally like a couple of day rides, like with your buddies, like camp out, or I don't know, like having great conversations, more bonding between your friends. One of the best tours we do here in Colombia is the one to the east of Colombia. It's like you basically sleep in hammocks and you're getting through really gnarly terrain and you dig each other out of the mud the whole time and get each other back on the bikes. And even there's like I don't know, 8, 9 people that you didn't know. After 10 days of doing that, that guy. You
Hmm.
know where he's, what kind of mindset he has. If you want to recruit people for your company, it's a great way to do these kind of things. Because you're gonna see if the guy is or the girl is a social person or if he's I don't know, if he's strong, if he's, interesting.
Yeah, or what they're capable of, or are they a team player? All the things, right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
we talked about a little bit. You mentioned it, kind of setting out. I actually did a couple of videos last year. I called them spontaneous moto or something like that. But I set out with the intention by myself of not having any reservations anywhere, not having a route planned. I just knew that I kind of wanted to go where I was at the time. I think it was like north and east into the mountains,
Right.
and that for somebody that's ridden motorcycles a long time, that little experiment was very interesting because you're like, oh, I'll take this road and I'll take this road. Then the sun starts setting. You're like, man, I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight, but I'll take this other road just in case. And you really just sort of figure it out. And I came to the conclusion a couple of times, like, well, if I got to sleep on the ground, I'll just pull over somewhere. I did find a hotel one night, but it is a much different way to travel, and it's actually kind of exciting.
Oh, it is. And it has like a good, like a little bit of a gut feeling. You get a little bit of like, how do you call it? I hope it all works out today, right? Like that kind of feeling. I
Yeah.
actually had a private tour with a Dutch guy last weekend. He wanted to do a 2-day private tour. He actually was more opting for like a group, but I didn't have a group. So we had to I said, okay, what do you want to do? And he said, I have no experience with dirt, but I want to go. We call things in bananas. 1 banana is asphalt, 5 banana is going straight up in the
Mm.
gnarliest situation. So there's as many bananas as possible. I said,
Oh.
like, okay, are you open for like, so I'm not going to book any hotels. I'm not going to book up front. So you need to be aware. We can be in a place where there's no hot water, where there's no internet, where there's nothing. Is that okay with you? It's like, oh man, this sounds like an adventure. It's like, okay, let's go for it. And so I didn't book anything. I planned a little bit in my head, a couple of routes, what we could do, but it depends on the weather. It's now rainy season, so it's now not. But that's Colombia. Rainy
Hmm.
season can be 2 days of rain, and there can be 5 days of great weather. Um, uh, but he had such a good spirit. The guy was super positive, and he dropped the bike here, dropped the bike there, went deep into the mud, and I don't know. And he had a great time. And then I still have the like a little not anxiety, but that like I hope it's all going to go well. He's not hurting
Right.
himself, and that we sleep in a place that is like it's good enough for him because I don't mind. So I love that feeling, and I like it when I can take people on these kind of travels. Say like, all right, we're not going to plan too much. This is like the whole tour is included, but you need to be open minded, right? Because then you
Hmm.
got to go my way of traveling. And we have other people who do big groups, and then they want they want to have the hot shower, follow truck, I don't know, these kind of things. So everything is, you're not up for surprises, and then you never know, but as less as possible. And some people are more into that.
The flexibility to be able to provide that is, I think, essential. And it sounds like you do a really good job of that, because if I want to do 5 bananas, which I wrote that down now, everything in bananas for me. Like, hey, Phil, where are you going this weekend? 4 bananas.
Let's go bananas. That's what we always
Yeah,
say.
right. Yeah, yeah. And you can do that. Like, I want a specific tour with a truck. I know exactly where I'm staying, whatever it is, or let's just go
Mhm.
out here and figure it out. I think you have a wide range of things that you're able to offer people. And there's excitement
Yeah.
in that. There's excitement in sort of the unknown, at least for me, right? That's adventure.
Well, it all depends on. For people, an adventure is taking the motorcycle out to the Starbucks, and as you know that we say in the States. So everybody has their own perception of what an adventure is.
Hmm.
But if you're going to ask me, it's like, Tim, what do you like to do? It's like, because I've been living outside of the country, I've been traveling a lot. You're adding on your bananas the whole time, right? You're going to find, I love to go deep in the jungle, for example, and find a new tribe. I don't know, these kind of things, like
Right.
eating shitty food for 5 days, being bitten by mosquitoes all day, but you're coming to that place that hardly anybody's been to. So these
Yep.
things are cool, but it all depends on it. So I don't want to say like, okay, that's not an adventure. Everything is an adventure as long as it's out of your comfort zone, I would say.
That's a beautiful way to say it. Man, you got some gems. You got bananas. You've got,
Well,
it,
you're surrounded with cool people. Actually, the bananas is a cool story. So we opened up this place in
mhm.
2019, and in December we were like working here with volunteers that were building the house. It was like a lot of nothing here still. So we were
Okay.
building with these volunteers this place, right? We had at one point like 20 volunteers like working here, and like one was doing like fixing roofs, and the other one was doing tiles, and the other one was like, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. And then the 15th of December, we said, okay, we're going to open up with Christmas. And then a group of bikers just came in, like riding in, two guys from the States and from one guy from England. He came through Africa down this way. They heard about that we were doing this. And then when we were Christmas, we were like with 20 people. And these guys stayed for like 6 weeks. They just hanging out hammocks and just slept in the hammocks. And they went every day, like finding more like difficult routes, so single tracks, and I don't know, because they couldn't do that before because they had all the luggage with them and all that stuff.
Right.
So, and we just we every time we went to the mountains, it's like, oh man, that was bananas, wasn't it? So from there on, we started the whole thing. It's like, all right, let's go bananas today, but we want to find like 4 bananas at least.
And okay, I see it. Yeah. So,
yeah, but just like crazy guys, like 2 guys from the States, I think the English. Oh man, there were more people adding on, and then you get this group, and I'm still in contact with these guys. When I was in the Dolomites in Italy last year with like a little car, and the other guy saw on Instagram that I was like traveling in that area because I'm normally not in Europe, right? So he's like, hey man, I'm nearby, I'm in France. I was like, all right, let's meet up tomorrow. So he drove with his bike, so we did some wild camping in the Dolomites, and great stories, making new stories again.
man, you meet those friends and you keep those friends, right? It is, it's, I don't say it's cliche, but it is like, oh, I met this guy. But the folks that you meet on 2 wheels, it's just something about them, and you keep those people,
Absolutely. Like, I love it. Like, and I have to be honest, like when I was like, when I was a 16-year-old, I had a moped, like a 50cc Honda SS, it called, like from the 70s, like a 4-stroke little blah, 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 because that was legal in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 18, I ditched that thing, or 17 or something, and rode some pizza scooters and bring pizzas around here and there. I was 16, I think. And after that, I didn't look at motorcycles for a long time because I thought, like, I'm going to kill myself when I ride one of these things. Till I traveled in Asia and rented like bigger scooters and these kind of things again. And in my 30s, actually, I picked it up again, motorcycles. And even then, I didn't fit into any, the KTM group, BMW group, or whatever group. I didn't fit into the stuff. So I came into Colombia, and here I didn't need to fit in anything. So I bought like a Royal Enfield was the first thing, like the Himalayan, like here. Well, before I did States, of course, the KLR, but here Himalayan, and traveled 20,000, 25,000 kilometers with that thing here, and like every corner that I could go, I went to. And afterwards a KTM 790, and after the DR 650s, and now I've even bought a 250, like a small one, a really reliable one that you can just take in the gnarly stuff here. But like, again, like I'm not fitting into one group of motorcyclists because like I don't care. Like the thing is, like the motorcycle is just a cool tool to have fun, right?
Absolutely. And there is some of that too. There's some of that gatekeeping at every level in every manufacturer base, which I don't understand. I'm like, you might ride it differently than I do, but we're still doing kind of the same thing. And if you want to take all the way to Colombia on, as much asphalt as you can, good for you, right? Like that's maybe not how I want to do it, but who cares?
But that's another thing as well. It's like people sometimes they look at our website now, and you see a lot of videos and stuff that we're getting really into dirt. And even though for pro like enduro, hard enduro riders, it's nothing. But a lot of people with the bigger bikes, it's like, I don't know, maybe Donkey Sunrise is not for me because they do all that stuff. And that's not the case, right? Because these things are fun to film. So that's why you see a lot of that material on our Instagram and stuff. But and of course the accident happens that people get deep into the mud. That's fun. So but for us it's like we do everything. We like our afternoon rides, and if we have big groups, sometimes we take a 2-hour ride here into the mountains, asphalt and a little bit of dirt, and just to get a nice sunset and eat like a salchicha, like a sausage on the mountain with, get a little bit of local vibe. So that's what we do a lot, and I still appreciate that a lot too. So
that's like one or two banana ride with some salchichas.
Oh yeah, just like, but also to have like.
So wait, some perros
calientes.
Calientes, yes.
Perro caliente, sí.
Perro caliente.
Pero dog hot.
yeah. With some 2 banana salchichas. I'm in on that. I'm in on that ride, man. I
Yeah,
love
so
that.
we do with all these things, and it all depends on, because we have like people that are in the 60s, even in their 70s, that travel all the way over here on their own bike, and we have people in their 20s. But I would say the majority is between the 30 and 65. I would say that
Hmm.
come through here, and they all have their own way of riding. And like sometimes they hear us talking about these banana things, and it's like, well, that's not for me. But it doesn't, that doesn't matter. Like for us, for me, it's like going to the CrossFit gym or whatever. That's the same thing. Trying to find a single track and just go ape shit, if you say it in English, or go bananas.
Go bananas. Everything. I'm going to
Yeah,
start using that everywhere on my videos. Guys, this is a 3 banana ride, and the rating system is in bananas. Yes. So
yeah.
not, what was plantains. You guys got plantains down there?
Oh, absolutely. Like I think the one you see here is plantains over there, and that one
Yeah.
is bananas. We have like 3 different types of bananas and 2 different types of plantains.
Yeah. So that would be a different rating system, the plantain system. But
Yeah, because we have really thick ones.
oh man, dude, some of those like what do they call those? Where they cut and they fry them, they smash them, fry them again.
Yeah,
Uh,
patacones they call them
that
here.
is like life changing. Like you just
It's
take a bite and
good.
you just look at the sky and you're like, this is the best part of my life right now.
Well, that's the thing. I think if you step out of your rat race, what do we have back in the States, Netherlands, or wherever you're from, like, and you're not thinking about your finance and not thinking about like, the next goal that you need to achieve, and you just sit down and, even though the food, maybe like Colombian food is not like it's not known for as haute cuisine, as they call it, right?
Mm,
Diversity, but it's fresh. And where you sit down and having a good time, like everything tastes better. Like
absolutely.
the environment around you makes, we say in Dutch, raw beans taste sweet. Like it's that's the thing. Is I started to appreciate a lot like the food here, simple food like lentils, for example. Like in the Netherlands, I never ate that stuff. Like even beans, I never eaten in the Netherlands. Like maybe with tomato sauce, baked beans, they call that.
Hmm.
But now, and I appreciate that simple food here because of I appreciate this lifestyle that we have here, like simple and easy, and
Man,
yeah,
I'm jealous. I mean, it because I hear what you're saying, and I've somewhat gone down the path. I haven't like all the way in like you are, and I think people can watch this or listen to it and just be like, man, that is the life. But the reality is, the barriers uh, are high in the beginning, but once you get through those and you just stay committed, man, the reward
absolutely.
and the fulfillment is so much more,
Yeah, the other
so much
things you
more.
what you need to do is you need to give up things, right? So give up
Hmm.
certain comforts that
Yep.
are, well, I see them now more as difficulties, but at that time you see them as comforts. Like when you're back home, like all these amenities you have, all the things that work around you, but also you pay for, right? So there's a lot big of your budget just goes to things that are just warm water. I don't know, like your insurance is like all these things. You need to give up a couple of these things, but for me, of course, the first steps were not as easy. I was stressed. I was like, when I
Hmm.
left the Netherlands, I sold everything that I basically had. Of course, I had a couple of boxes of things from the past, and I could happily store it with my family. But even that, like when you're a long time away, is like, well, you can throw away these boxes because I'm never going to look at
Right.
it anyway. But
Exactly.
yeah, when you're leaving your own home, your house, the things how things work around you. Yeah, in the beginning, it is a little
Oh man,
but
dude.
it's so
Yes.
rewarding. It's so
Laying in
rewarding.
bed, where's the next whatever coming from, or how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
Or yeah,
Well, just
and
starting a business,
yeah.
like in a different language, you're relying on other people and stuff. Like I was kind of like on my own. Like I could figure things out, but if you don't speak the language really, because like of course English is my second language, and Spanish, and I was eager to learn better to ride better motorcycle. I was not that eager to learn better Spanish in the beginning, so I was
Mm,
like I'm trying to find my ways with other people that are like could help me, and in that kind of way. But and then a little bit of Spanish, but then you're sitting with a lawyer and you don't know anything Spanish. You thought you
you
knew
got to
something,
trust him. Yeah,
you know nothing. So you need to put trust in people's hands, and that's a really interesting process, I have to say. But
absolutely.
it's rewarding, man. It's like I just say the background, it tells for a lot of people already enough, and for me still, I'm pinching myself when I'm riding. Yesterday night, or yeah, yesterday we did a little trail, figuring out a nice trail here in the area, and we ended up a road that was dead end, was a horse road, how to call it, a horse path. And I
Yeah,
look
yeah.
around me and like, damn, I live here. Like, this is my home. Wow. I'm still surprised, like when I do rides here, like that's amazing.
That
Sorry,
right
that's
there,
that's true.
I'm sure that bleeds into what you do, where you're at, and that's the best feeling to have, man. Like, wow, like I never want it to get old. It won't. Um, the experience that you provide to people just sounds absolutely amazing from start to finish. Whatever you want the experience to be, and it's good because not only have you built, from what I've seen and what we talked about, an amazing place, but you infect it with your like just amazement and wanting to live life, and all the positivity that comes with that, right? I want to be here and I want to share this with people and I want to show them how this can be amazing. And so that just sounds like you've created just an amazing little spot there.
Well, that's also because I think I'm kind of true to myself nowadays. I thought I could do a lot of things that I was really bad at. Actually, it's like I'm not
Mm,
good in many things. I think I'm quite good in making people feel comfortable around me. Um, and what I'm creating here, this is something I'm good at. I'm really shit in most things, like finance. I'm really shit. Like I need help with a lot of things
right.
because like I'm not interested in it either. It's like I don't like money. I don't like the concept of money really. Of course we need it and we need to, but it's not something I like to be busy with. In the past
Mm,
I was, but now I don't. So like I'm kind of true to that with myself. So I need to be surrounded with people that help me out with things that I'm not good at, and I'm focusing on these things I'm good at. And as one of them is trying to give people good energy, and help them out, and trying to get them infected with the lifestyle that I'm living. And maybe if it suits you, right, then I'm helping you out with that.
that's amazing. What I say that's amazing, but if people would listen to that last minute of it just over and over again, it's like this is somebody that has, figured it out, right? Especially when it's like, I don't like money, because there are a lot of people that are attached to money. And yeah, of course we need it, but the pursuit of money and the acquiring of money, I don't know if that's ever really had me wake
Well,
up in the morning like, oh my God, this is the best day ever, because
that's the
it's
thing.
never
I
happened.
always think to myself, I want to be like sitting on my deathbed and looking back, and I'm definitely going to be sure not about which bike I was riding, but the experience that I made with that bike,
Hmm.
or any experiences, the people that I met, like the stupid things that I did that I thought I couldn't do, and I in the end did, like overcome things that I was afraid of, these kind of things you're going to look back to, and I still already do because like I do reflect once in a while with myself, even though I didn't want to. But like I'm just like, I start dreaming of and be like, "Wow, that's so cool," you know. And I want people like to see that. And of course, it's like sometimes it's easy to say if you have a certain personality, it makes it easier. Like my personality is outgoing, so it's easier to go outside and talk with everybody. If that's not your strength, a place like this could be your help, or finding friends around you that help you with that. Don't find yourself people around you that want to tell you the bad things like money and stuff. I don't know. I
Man,
don't know. I don't like it.
absolutely.
It's like
I couldn't agree
it's just
more.
it's the pursuit of money. I don't think it's of course it's important to keep things alive and do things, but I think it should not be a main goal in life. Absolutely not.
Agree. Well, Tim, it's been an amazing conversation, man. Inspiring for me, and I hope for others too. I'll let you kind of wrap this up with, what are your future plans, or that, and combined with, if you had things you wanted to leave people with, what would those things be about, yourself, Donkey Sunrise, what's coming in the future, all those things.
Yeah, so like, what I want to get, I want to get this place to feel like a home that is like occupied with at least a certain amount of people always. So there's always enough people when you come in here that you feel that family vibe. We're trying to do that already with volunteers. Like I want to get like a couple of people that live here for longer term, and I want of course more people coming in. So with this whole community thing is growing, because I just noticed like a lot of these people on the motorcycle in the States, you have a lot of things that's really good, like the Moscow Moto guys that are really working, or all the other brands that are making community things. But when you're traveling around the world, you don't find that many places. So I want this place to be one of the places where you go through if you travel around the world, or you want to start your travels on a
Mm,
motorcycle. Um, for me, like getting big is not a thing. It's just being like that I meet as many people as I can, because that's my egocentrically saying that's the thing that I love here: meeting cool
right.
people, having rides with nice people. I don't know. So that's for me the most important because it's my life, and like I would like to give my life, my experience to other people, and my wife, of course, because she's a great partner, and family because her father-in-law, for example, works with us, and he's also a part of like really a part of the family because everything is really as a family orientated. So yeah, what we're gonna do a couple of other things. I said like Spanish class we want to do. We're gonna focus more on writing, I would call it like lessons. So
Okay.
if you're like a level one writer, hey, you do the Pan Am already, but you want to get like a little bit more confidence, we're gonna work on that, and it's a lot of like um, mental, of course, because the big bikes, people found it sometimes difficult to take them off road, even though it says adventure off road ready, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to help that, especially in the winter. We're gonna do with a pro enduro rider. He's gonna do the next levels. Um, yeah, we're always looking for cool people that want to help us out. You know, like that have the similar spirit that I have, and most of the people that come through here. So volunteers, especially now, because we don't make big money here, so we need to do things a little bit like in these kind of ways. So we offer here a place where you can work online, and then half the time you help us out, for example. So we're always searching for that. And yeah, and to the people that sit and think like, oh, I wish I had, it's like stop thinking and start doing. That's why I like to end this conversation. Stop, just get on that bike. Doesn't matter if it's a 50cc or your 1200. If you can pay for gas and you have a passport in your pocket, you can go.
That's absolutely it. It sounds like I can get on my bike, come down there, learn to speak the language, have an amazing place to stay, eat some amazing food, do some bananas rides, and just live an amazing experience down there for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, man. It's like everybody has their own way of an adventure, right?
That's exactly it. Well, Tim, what an amazing, inspiring conversation. I can't wait to edit this down and get it out there for people to watch and listen. Thank you so much for being on the show. I just look at your backdrop constantly and I'm like, the guy's a lucky guy, right? It's a lucky guy.
Yep.
So,
It's a horrible life, man.
oh man.
You see this, right? It just stays there.
Yeah. Yeah. My buddy's in Africa. It's just another shit day in Africa, bro. Yeah.
Yeah,
Same for
yeah.
Colombia. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
smile on
people
your
should
face.
stop thinking that Africa or South America is bad because it is great down here.
Dude. If people don't understand that after listening to and watching you talk for the last hour and a half, I don't know what would convince them otherwise. So, hey man, we'll wrap it
Yeah.
up. Thanks for being on the show, and yeah, man, we'll do another one next time.